Hey guys, how are you?
Hello, good. Mark's muted.
Oh yeah. Well, I
Ask
just got your message about 10 minutes ago, 527, that you sent the link out.
Yeah, well, I just looked at my clock in the kitchen and it's still on 5:30, so there's a legitimate reason. Shower, it was about 5, and then I come out and it's like 6:20 because I thought maybe 6 is better for Mark because if he still gets up early.
Yeah.
And yeah,
They just finished dinner 10 minutes ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was outside.
Were you talking to Mark the first 10 minutes or so?
No, you both came in at the same time.
Oh, awesome. Marky and I are just that in sync.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I said 7 yet. I'm pretty literal with time. I think you probably are as well, yeah.
Ideally, I think just before the time is perfect. 5-10 minutes before. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Maureen, obviously, you know what I think, of course, no doubt. I think that this is another, problem reaction solution.
What's that? Which problem?
Well, basically, the state wouldn't be able to do obviously what they want ordinarily. So they have to manufacture a problem. And then obviously the solution is what they always wanted to do, obviously, in the first place.
The solution is what they wanted to do in the first place.
Yeah. But they can't obviously just straight up do it because obviously, there'd be an ambush of criticism because, people will rightly be saying, what the fuck?
What's the solution? What do you think?
Well, their solution is obviously not the same as mine.
Yeah.
Their solution is to centrally plan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because that's what Daniel Andrews is, a central planner. And I mean, I don't know that I've said this to you before, but I certainly have said that the only legitimate reason to try communism at all is when one family own all the wealth. And obviously we don't have that here, but he's, shit at central planning anyway, because you remember that time he tried to put a youth detention centre right near Werribee South Beach?
Not really, but it sounds interesting. I mean, I did hear something.
Yeah, I think that was when I was living in Werribee at the time, and he was obviously, trying to do that. And of course, he put injection room right next door to a school.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I did an essay on the injection room, and it happened after the Sydney one. Yeah, I just don't know if they're even smart enough to have that kind of future planning. But, this is good. This feels like where me and you, and like when I think of what Kate posts and stuff, it's like I'm in this opposition, but I don't mean to be there. It's because I'm not up to date anymore on the news. I'm sort of, I don't know, it seems like it takes too much to find out what the truth is, or like what the media is up to, because I just put on the ABC in the morning, I just kind of make fun of them, and then late in the afternoon ABC is good, but the morning I'm aware that they're just saying whatever's popular, and they're just bringing it out, and I'm just doing my day-to-day like everyone is, and I'm with everyone where I'm just oblivious, and I'm even like, oh yeah, I'll have to get the vaccine because I have to work, I want to travel, and that's probably how most people are thinking.
I don't want to be excommunicated.
Yeah. Hi Mark, how you going?
Yeah, not too bad.
How's it going, buddy?
Yeah, how's it going, Troy? Yeah, you're 100% right. And to the average person, it feels like it's an inevitable situation where if you want to have a normal life, you've got to gotta be part of the community and that kind of thing. And that is where it's kind of been set up to be like that, unfortunately.
Yeah, it feels like the past doesn't exist. Like I'm spending my time watching a lot of old movies from when I was young, when I was uneducated. And not that I'm educated, but I feel like I'm in a different place where I don't know, I'm interested. When I was young, 80s and 90s, I didn't kind of care that much. I had a kind of a two-dimensional lifestyle. And now it's like, these movies are trying to describe how society is, and weird how the feminist idea that girls can do anything, and all these 80s movies, they show all races as kind of equal, but the 80s was when there was a crack epidemic for the Black community, and it's not really a realistic. The 80s movies are the same as the movies now. Like there's the same propaganda. That's what I'm getting at. So it's like, wow.
It's Hollywood is amazing because, as you said, you look at the modern cinema, and for example, they've just released that what's that evil chick from one of the Disney movies? I forget, Cruella or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 100 Relations. Yeah.
I've noticed that they are trying to push these characters forward as a thing where, again, the princesses are being kind of used up, kind of thing. And it comes into what they want people to portray themselves as. So, again, those people that are watching those movies grow up, they start living those lifestyles, and it becomes an endless cycle where, commercialization of media outweighs common sense.
Yeah.
But
the best I've been watching is like the early 90s period, 2 or 3 years when it happened to be when I was a late teenager, and all the music seemed like it was actually real, like they were bringing up politics. And I didn't used to like Nirvana very much, but now I'm watching all these documentaries about how musos and artists, and the grunge used to just dress in kind of rags.
the grunge was further back, weren't they?
Hey,
The grunge was further back, wasn't it?
further back.
Was like a 70s thing.
Grunge? Oh no,
no.
Was early
Grunge was a 90s thing.
Yeah. So your generation, what would define your generation? Because I've been watching a lot of Friendly Jordies, and I'm going to go see him. And I know that everyone is different in each generation. Like, because now you're in your early 30s. I think millennials go up to about early 30s.
Yeah, Mark, he's 29 next month.
20,
Yeah,
30, 30.
30, sorry.
Yeah. So it's funny. I've noticed that with music and that kind of thing, and a lot of it is to do with censorship. There you look at certain songs from back in the 60s. They were very politically based. Messages. And once it hit about 2000s, music started to be very corporized. You'll notice that they were bringing these talents like Michael Jackson, raising them to be stars.
Yeah, he was
crazy. What happened to him? Like, I'll say it now. It doesn't matter where you see him. His music was a talent.
Oh, you can't deny that he was an elite musician.
Yeah, and unfortunately, what happened in his life and that led to the choices he made. Whether, I decided to fall,
Oh, it's just another fucking issue where it's like, but the other thing I'm obsessed with the Nirvana thing, was it all just suicide? And, they're again, they're not millennials, this guy, people who are getting all the old footage and, did people plan his murder? There was like, crazy. And with Michael Jackson, it's like, I'm fully convinced that he did everything that those two boys said he did in that 4-hour documentary. And then I'll listen to, there's the other side, and it's like, wow, they've got evidence as well that he was set up and all this stuff. But it just,
Yeah, I don't know.
I can't 100%. I hate that I can't 100% just settle, because
I think as most things in life, it tends to lay somewhere in between the middle.
What do you think of this?
With him and with Kurt Cobain, like, there is the truth, but because they're dead, like, that's where it kind of ends. You have to listen to people that are still alive, unless they've got real evidence.
What do you think of the theory that he obviously actually did do it, but obviously what's it called? He didn't have like that gene, if you get what I'm saying, that makes him like feel guilty, because obviously he always denied obviously sexually molesting those kids, and maybe he didn't do it.
Well, his career would have to, I just imagine, like with Americans and just people like that, I can only imagine that even if he has emotions, like, he's not like the classic, shit person, to use our theory, but that will for him to be successful overrides what he's been doing to children, and they even talk about that, he was in love with them, and that they, very sick stuff. But if he did have that twisted mind.
Yeah, because most people obviously wouldn't do that, because obviously it's so morally reprehensible that obviously they don't give themselves permission to obviously go and do those morally reprehensible acts.
Yeah, well, if it didn't happen in the church, I grew up in the Catholic Church, you just can't imagine.
Thanks, Mum.
I think. And then when it started to come out, it's like, wow, people are like this. And I think especially in these roles, like the priests were, I think what drew them to the priesthood was this horrible thing inside them that they couldn't stop themselves, moving into a position where they were going to have access to children and be what's the word? People let them. That's part of the evil, is that people found out about it and then they let it go on. And like with the Michael Jackson thing, the mothers, he had them all hoodwinked.
I mean, it is really weird that he was sleeping with them. I'm not even saying sexually. I mean just sleeping in the same bed. Like, to me, that's so weird.
Yeah, it's almost like if he didn't do it, he doesn't deserve all this, but
it's still really weird that he did that.
Yeah, you just I don't know. What do you expect? He obviously lives in a fantasy world as a child.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously it's not a bad affair where he should have.
I feel like that is a lot of the product of his lifestyle, life. What he had to deal with, like, he was very successful early on in his career, and hence his parents they put a lot of pressure on him, and effectively he was made into an adult that when he was still a kid.
And I heard it was his father in particular.
5. Yeah, started at 5.
Exactly. So of course, as you look at these other child stars, they've all had issues.
Yeah.
Somewhere down the track.
Oh, what about the two Corys? Oh, I grew up with Corey.
Corey in the House or something?
Yeah. No. That's
no, the Corey twins.
The
Sweet-
Sweet Life.
The Sweet Life, yeah.
Zack
Oh,
and
no, that was
Cody.
Zach and Cody, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Which one is that?
Sorry, I confused the name, but I was thinking the same
these
thing.
guys are from the 80s or. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They were
Anyway.
child
Oh, no, I remember
actors.
that being on,
Yeah.
Mowbray days.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Sweet Life of
Corey
Zach and Cody.
Feldman, he's a little weirdo, but he's so cool. Like he's got this whole campaign where he's going to out pedophiles in the industry, and he's kind of fizzled out. He had this big screening of this movie, and the big name was Charlie Sheen,
Yeah.
who the story of him raping Corey Haim. Corey Haim and Corey Feldman were friends. They were in a couple of big movies together. The Lost Boys. Did you see The Lost Boys?
Yes.
Dream a Little Dream. There's a kind
I
of.
heard of them before. Heard of it
And
before.
there was a show called The Two Coreys where it was about
Okay.
them in later life. They're probably late 40s. I don't know if they're my age or a bit
Well,
older.
Zach and Cody were like 11, 12, weren't they, Marky?
I think so, yeah. But that was
Yeah.
a show, different one that Disney put on.
Yeah.
Sorry, Maureen, we got
No,
confused.
So they were child actors.
Yeah, same
in-
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Corey in the House. That was he was what's it called from That's So Raven.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Did you have Foxtel out of curiosity, mate?
Yes, I did. But yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize you had that in
anyway,
common.
Yeah. Anyway,
Oh,
that's a story for another
You
time.
had Foxtel.
Yes.
Yeah, I think my generation, we kind of had MTV, and which was a Foxtel thing, wasn't it? Not MTV.
Yeah, well, it was originally a music channel, and then it slowly went
Rage,
in-
actually. ABC Rage and Recovery.
Yeah.
Oh.
I used to watch a bit of that in Year 9, Rage.
I had Countdown. That was the 70s and 80s. I think I got the end of Countdown.
Yeah.
That fizzled out, and then then it was just sort of what's the word that you said? Commercialized.
There's
Because grunge
reality.
became indie, which is meant to
Yeah.
mean independent, but it's just like a commercialized. All those Aussie bands. But there was a lot of
Countdown was what Melly Meldrum hosted.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
yeah. Then my sister lived next door to him. Yeah,
Huh.
in Richmond. So yeah, Molly Meldrum. He was such a
I only know because Mum told me.
He was. It's funny how he wasn't overly like charismatic or cool like a lot of musos, but he got around.
I
think
thought that he was loved, Molly Meldrum. But he was adored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's one of the last of the old musos that kind of grew up as the older generation and seen the new generation kind of come in.
Yeah, well, he never played music. He was just obsessed with bands. So he was I guess like a reporter. Not really a journalist, a music journalist. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because he went on Millionaire in 2003 and
Really?
did surprisingly well, and everyone, the audience were chanting his name. It was great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You like Millionaire? I think.
Yeah, he got up to the $1 million question and took the money.
Wow.
Yeah,
I heard of that.
did really well, super well.
And Red Simon, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he lost 218,000.
That was like a celebrity
He
issue, was it? They didn't actually get the money.
should have used 50-50, but I guess he thought that he knew it.
Oh
That
wow.
$500,000 question, but he got it wrong, unfortunately for him.
Who Red Simon?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that was
so-
in 2000, mid 2000.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. What was I doing in 2000?
I was 10 and a half then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, at Ballarat Specialist School.
I think I was 25. My dad died in 1999, and then
Sorry about that.
I'd moved out to Langi, where I live now. It's like the second to Langi. I just wanted to live out in the sticks while I was being a mother. I didn't want to be in the suburbs.
Mm.
And
So
then we
when you were 12, I wasn't born yet.
what year were we saying? 2000. Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, I was 10 and a half because I was born at the end of the 80s. It was in the final week of the 80s.
Yeah, okay. I had my daughter at 97. So
Mm.
you were born when? In the end of the 80s?
Final week, beginning of the final week.
Wow.
Yep.
I was just thinking about how weird that is that, you know, we look at you younger guys and you were still born in the 90s or the 80s or, you know, end of the 80s. It seems so long ago, and the world, I mean, we've always said the world's crazy, but it really
It's
feels
crazy
like,
to think that 2000 was 20 years ago.
oh yeah. And then 2001, yeah, that was the big, I met Aaron like 4 days before 9/11 happened.
Mm.
And so that seemed like this, you know, the world just changed permanently forever from then.
Yeah.
But I also,
Along came that Patriot Act, Marky.
Yeah. Look, yeah, as society goes along, every 10 years, you have this weird feeling that, you know, society is no longer the society that you grew up in. And
Yeah.
I think it comes down to the generation, you know, as you get older, the more life experiences you get.
yeah.
You learn.
You learn, you know, and you start seeing the world in a different perspective, you know. Like, for example, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have cared about what was going on in the world, you know. I just wanted to live my life, have a good time, and that's it, you know.
Oh, it's what 20-year-olds think, mate.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
again, you know, these issues become more and more important for you, you know, as you get older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just seems like there's, I guess, because now we've got not just the internet, but, you know, like a saturation of, well, I only spend my time on Facebook and I'm very interested in conflict, but as I'm looking at people fighting with each other, it just becomes more absurd and everyone thinks they've got the answer. It's like, why aren't you interested in someone else's opinion instead of just yelling, you know, in text? But, you know, everyone just, we all want to know, you know, concretely what the answer is. Maybe things are moving too fast, I don't know, or they're
Yeah. Well,
there's a collective madness. It's probably always been that way, but
yeah, no, there's a lot of grey, and
Yeah.
I think obviously the libertarian left and right, you know, they're the ones that are right a lot more than obviously the authoritarians are, especially the top left-hand corner.
so how long is the libertarians, are you saying they're kind of one group, but they're still left and right leaning? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of
Left and right
you
leaning.
know, what's it called? You know, in that political compass test I did, I was exactly you know, bet each way 50, you know, for 50% for both libertarian and authoritarian.
So so it's a middle kind of, what is it, an ideology? What?
Yeah, well, I mean, what's it called? I mean, of course, there are some libertarian positions that are obviously full bull libertarian, you know, that are straight up crazy, like you know, I should be able to drive my car, you know, no matter what kind of thing, right? You know, that I would regard as, you know, as batshit crazy, you know, full bull.
Yeah, when I was younger, people that were going to uni and whatever, I'd hear, you know, I just wouldn't engage in the discussion, but it was like, oh, I'm an anarchist. Most of them were anarchists.
Because that was pretty much what I was implying. Yeah. Because I mean, so long as you can obviously drive your car well, right, or certainly well enough, then obviously, you know, absolutely you should be able to, you know, but, you know, you shouldn't obviously be able to drive your car just because you own it, you know, because obviously if you can't drive for shit, then you absolutely shouldn't be able to drive it, you know, just because.
So rules, Aaron was telling me that rules don't apply to him. Something about, you know, it's for the uneducated. And late this whole week I've thought, no, rules
have a place.
Rules, and you need to know which rules to follow. I guess you've got social rules, haven't you? These are the rules I'm I think we have to break is these rules about speech. So the whole freedom of speech idea. I always will watch a bit of like Jordan Peterson and some other. I love how like him and his daughter and some others, they're just interviewing so many different, you know, not really experts, but different smart people. And I'm just watching their discussions. It's very interesting about. Is it someone Doyle? What's his name? The English guy.
Robert Doyle?
Yeah, is it Robert Doyle?
I'm pretty sure.
Isn't that a old
Andrew
American
Doyle.
politician
Thinking of Andrew
from the
Doyle.
90s? Oh no, wait, that's the Lord Mayor, isn't it?
I think it's Andrew Doyle. I don't know.
Lord Mayor of Melbourne?
No. It's
Irish comedian. Oh, he's Irish.
Yeah.
He does that.
Oh no, the American one was Bob.
Andrew Doyle does this satire character, Titanium, where she's really woke, but she's just really, you can't tell that she's fake because her ideas are so crazy that you know that people think that way.
Oh yeah. So you think that,
Stuff.
what's it called? She might be a Poe because it's so ridiculous, but you know there are people that unironically believe that.
Yeah, like she's a white girl, you know, middle class, but then she'll be woke, so she'll talk about racism or, you know, whatever in a really ridiculous kind of way. You know, she's sort of like a Instagram, one of those people that just pretend they're in Black Lives Matter, and you know, go and get photographed, and then, you know, they're woke, so they lecture to people. It's like a fake morality that they're not willing to.
It's born almost on the idea that that's their personality and their identity.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it's one of those things. Unfortunately, yeah, those people are becoming more and more commonplace.
Yeah.
And
popular
like popular for strange reasons, you know. Like I was, you know, for example, watching Extreme Sisters, which is a TLC based program, and you probably see it on Facebook or whatever. And it's like have you ever seen Extreme Cheapskates? Have you ever seen that show? Yeah, similar premise where they go find weird individuals and they're socially awkward or whatever and go into their lives. Well, these are sisters that are identical. They're actually based in Perth, and they date this. It's unbelievable. You gotta have a watch because they are literally dating one man. They're having a kid with him because they can't be separated. It's like physically impossible, but it's their whole identity. You know, if they didn't have that, they would be lost. You know, kind of thing. And I think
is it a TV Strange Sisters season 1?
Well, it's like where is it? Seen it before.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's online now.
Yeah, sounds interesting. Yeah.
I think that movie I watched Friday night, Saturday morning, The Hate You Give, is a really great film because it really does a great job of showing you why America is so divided.
Oh yeah, The Hate You Give.
Yeah.
There's so much to watch, isn't there? I just finished watching Mr. Robot, the 4 seasons. And I wouldn't have done it because there's all this coding and it's like, oh God, it just stretches out. But, you know, they take up a lot of time with the kind of soap opera kind of stuff. But yeah, really great that he's good at describing his anxiety. He's got social anxiety. So immediately I'm, you know, into it, and then it's sort of like why he's got it. He's this brilliant coder, but he's also got a split personality, and people seem to be drawn to that kind of stuff because it's different, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes it interesting.
It's I feel like programming for TV sakes is very different to what we grew up and what you grew up on. You know, I guess it comes down to the way society is pushed in certain directions. You know, say if certain ideas want to be pushed, they'll make a TV program about it, or
Yeah.
you know, or
Who do you think's pushing it?
well, I think it's look, it's a combination of the political correctness crowd and companies that, you know, are trying to market new ideas, you know, and sell products with those new ideas, you know.
So they just see that the idea is popular, and then
run with it.
Yeah, but do you it'd be good if, I know that like Kate and Misty talk about Agenda 21, and which seems like there's no conspiracy. Like you can look up the websites of, what is it, United Nations. Most people are kind of like, it's sort of boring to them, all this stuff. So that's why we all, not me so much, but people get called conspiracy theorists, or, you know, pushed aside.
And unfortunately, freedom is also not just taken away, but also given away.
Yeah. So it sounds like you guys are hinting at what they're talking about is that there's a bigger conspiracy, or a bigger
Yeah. Well, I mean, as Marky and I have pretty much agreed, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I really do think that the top left-hand corner are the enemy, you know, evil, but Marky is right, you know, they are useful idiots, their supporters. And you know, obviously, like I'd said, that's what I mean by giving freedom away, not just obviously having it taken from you, because obviously they naturally are more than happy to give it away, obviously because they are comforted by statism.
Yeah.
And you know, channel that you sent me, by the way, is really, really good.
The what?
Academy of Ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a bit of a droning voice, though, is he? Not droning, you know, it's like the same.
Well, it's funny because obviously he sounds like he's university educated, but obviously not the way that obviously universities educate, you know, students these days.
Well, I'm so happy that the course I chose to do was the center of it, sociology. But it's still, I don't know if that many people were actually doing it when I think about it, but they're the ones that go on to do the policy making, or, you know, they're the ones that get called on. They're the sociology experts. I would not say these people are experts. Like all my teachers that are doctors in something, they don't have a rounded education. Although some of them said they did do all this philosophy, and I'm sort of thinking, well, why don't you think about reality in these from a philosophical point of view? They've just got that, you know, that popular. I'm very interested in the new feminism, because I'm getting in trouble, and I really want to know if it's real or not. Whatever it doesn't matter. I don't mind if I'm wrong, but I think the only way you can learn is by talking to people about it. And like what we've just been talking about, what you were saying about giving away your power, is that what you're saying?
Giving away your freedom.
And having it taken from you. And this is what I'm thinking about with men and women, that women are giving away their power at a physical level, but then we're focusing on women that get abused and whatnot. And I don't think that there's just as many women abusing. I think because we're still stuck in our social roles, and women it's like they're even more weak than they ever were, younger women.
Well, again,
they're so ignorant about guys. I don't know why, you know, but good if,
Again, you can fake media point of views and stuff like that. And, you know, especially with our generation, It's got to the point where you look at the kids, and especially the girls that go to school and that, they don't have a clue what's the danger because they're so focused on what is put in front of them that they do not actually know what the realism of life is. So, for example, when these girls, particularly when they've just turned 18, for our country, Australia, that's legal drinking age, they haven't been, brought up, alcohol is not a thing that you touch until you go out there and, particularly with private school girls and that kind of thing, because generally the parents are a lot more stricter.
Yeah.
And they get absolutely shit-faced, and then a guy takes advantage of that situation, whether he's led on or not, it doesn't really matter. And again, those girls are the very girls that are bringing up the issue that this is a problem, As you said, Maureen, I don't think, again, it's not as big an issue as, say, the food shortages or something like that will happen sooner or later, especially with what's happened in New South Wales with the mice plagues.
Oh yeah.
And then again, with PETA, they're trying to stop that with their humane capturing of the mice, which is just not a realistic point of
the what?
Humane capture of the mice.
Oh, the mice, really?
Yeah.
Capture and release.
Capture and release, and it's just like
of mice.
Which are absolutely. If you look online, Maureen, there's they're talking about it. The mice are absolutely devastating in their food crops, and again, the farmers have struggled throughout this whole situation.
Not to mention the diseases they carry.
Well, yeah.
It's just unbelievable, isn't it? Like, I get a bit of a country style of ABC. So, I've heard about the mouse plagues, but I would never imagine that PETA or whatever. But I can. As soon as you say it, I've spoken to so many vegans because I love it, just interjecting some idea that they probably have never brought up and seeing what they think. So I've said a couple of times, like the fact that I eat chicken means that I give that chicken a life, and it, I'm into existential philosophy. This chicken gets to exist, and as long as we kill it humanely and I pay for it and eat it, I've given it, and isn't that what's important? It's getting, this chicken
tastes better if you kill it humanely anyway.
Yeah, these chickens are only alive for me to eat, and I've got all these dairy farms around, these cows that seem happy. I don't know much about, and you take the calves away, and then the calves are all sitting in a paddock, like they're not doing anything. They're just animals, dumb animals that probably have some emotions, and they're a little bit unhappy for a few days that their mum's gone, and then they're just, and this happens over and over hundreds of times, this cycle, so that people can drink milk and eat meat that they've done for forever. And then you've got these groups that are like, oh, you're all fucking assholes. You're all like murderers because you eat meat. Suddenly.
Well, it's the name of the game. You have to eat something.
Suddenly you've got to take on this new, like with the trans thing. I'm not convinced by the radical feminists who are the TERFs, but I completely understand their argument. Like suddenly men can just say they're women. It's like men aren't women, and you're listening to these things they have to say. It's totally insane. But now people are saying that they not only can they be women, but a woman can have a penis, and lesbians are homophobic. They're transphobic if a lesbian doesn't consider going out with a trans woman. And so that
again with that, it's again more confusion, more distractions, the more the real issues get forgotten.
Like China are right now, building up their military base.
Yeah. So
God, yeah, that terrifies me.
yeah, so exactly. And again, as I've said to Troy, these very issues that we've just talked about, it's first world problems. You don't hear,
do
you don't.
I care if a man in a dress, wants to take a piss in my toilet? Like, is that the biggest issue for me? I guess they're talking about, you're raising the idea of woman, and even I don't care about that enough. Like, what you're saying about China, and I think there's a class thing going on where I'm surrounded by, like, this is a beautiful part of town, and where, you seem to be around Ballarat, and then you've got, I think, Horsham, massive ice problem.
Yep.
And no one, and it's the worst drug. Like, heroin was devastating, and ice is, I could just see that it's worse.
It's
Yeah,
tenfold.
I mean,
again,
and there's so many people on it because it's so cheap, and you don't have to take it every day, so you don't have to rob houses like heroin addicts. They just use it for 3 days in a row. Then they'll have 4 days off, and then they need so little money, and it lasts so long, and they have this deluded reality that they're doing something with their life because this drug brings them to life. But then
do you remember those anti-ice ads Howard did, like back in 2004?
No, I can't even imagine ice. I mean, I know it's been
I don't think it was even that much of a problem back then.
Again,
I was watching Point Break from 1985, and they had crystal meth. I'm like, wow, that's ice. How can they have had it? It's just, I think, because it's just exploded now, but it's always been around. It sounds like. But yeah. 2005.
I look, again, it's like the old argument with marijuana, It's it's a classification and that kind of thing. It's always people trying to find a way of getting people screwed over effectively. So instead
Dependent.
of dependent and screwed over. So for example, it's well known in with police and that they do resend out the drugs, because they know it's one of those things is they know if they can keep a supplier, it gives them work, So for example, you would be hearing about these raids on people and they'd be going to, prison or whatever. It might be only maybe 5 years. So that person will think they'll have someone replace them, still selling the drug, that kind of thing, because there's still a dependency. So they take it, resell it on to the Theo, and again, when they're ready, they come in and take out all the little guys, and the big guys continue to do what they need to do,
Yeah, well, it makes sense.
No, that kind of sounds like we've gone into what's it called, the drug cartel.
Well, it's 100% right. It's well known that the pseudoephedrine is coming from China.
Oh yeah.
And unfortunately, what is reported is very minor compared to what actually is in the country. They just like that. They're reporting on it, and the busts are all just we're doing our job, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's how it's always worked. Unfortunately, if they could, they would arrest people for alcohol. But unfortunately, alcohol is a legalized substance, and
well, the middle class, they seem to cope with alcohol. It's socially accepted, and ice seems to be mainly for the lower or working class. It even seems like blue collar workers are the ones taking it. They're not just junkies anymore.
Yeah. And again, it comes to the attractiveness of what it is. It's a stimulant. You're able to pump your body faster than anything. You can you know, while you're working with it, you're fucking, you know, you're the top of the top, you know.
Yeah.
It's just the side effects
The
after
adrenaline.
a while. After a while, you know, with
I mean, you got people that aren't, they're not able to cope with, like, because I'm seeing some friends that I knew in Dandenong in the middle of it, and it's not them that I'm worried about. And, you know, like I've got neighbours that take it. It's not them that I'm worried about. I'm just worried about the loose cannons that, you know, running around town, taking it every day, taking huge amounts, and they're psychotic, and they're mostly men. And all we've got to say is, oh, toxic masculinity, you know, not that certain men, you know, push the boundaries, their physical boundaries, and they're mentally ill, obviously, or they've come into adulthood without being able to cope with, you know, as a, you know, maybe with a single parent bringing them up, or they're young offenders that never.
I mean, toxic masculinity exists, but, you know, I don't believe that, you know, you're toxic, you know, cause, you know, you're alpha, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, it seems like it's just this word, toxic masculinity. People talk at me like, oh, this has always been around. It's like, no, this is a new idea that you're pushing on me. And I do agree with them. Like, they get so fucking pissed off just when I suggest adding some ideas onto this idea that they have, which I agree with, but, you know, they're not willing to add anything or talk about. Because you know, one idea is that, you know, boys left with their mothers, and if the mothers are mentally ill, they're going to project that onto their sons, and the sons have, you know, they don't have the right masculine influence. You know, like just the couple of drug addicts I know, they have mothers that enable them. Like, that's the main thing. The mothers will give in because they're emotional people, and their son is like, you know, everything to them. So if the mother's messed up, she's going to project it onto him, and that's the cause. And then and the mothers, their daughters, you know, like I said the word naive. I said, if I wasn't naive, if my mother was able to teach me, you know, boundaries or whatever I needed, I would be different. So I don't blame her, but that's the cause. That's one of the causes, that you don't just say it's men, you know, toxic masculinity.
We're a creature of our environment, and that comes down to our survivability. You know, why we've been able to sustain being one of the dominant species on the planet.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, that's it, isn't it?
You know, and a bit of ego, unfortunately.
Ego, yeah.
Oh, well, you know, I think we should want, obviously, we should want our race, the human race, obviously, to be as happy and successful as possible.
Yeah. And as survival of fittest, correct. You know, you can't...
and our little lives are just like a small part of society, and people are running around trying to find solutions when we really are just a tiny little piece. And it's like, I don't know if they don't accept their life. There's something wrong with their life personally. I think that's what
it's the conundrum of people trying to fix issues where there isn't really issues.
Like trying to socially engineer bigotry out of society, basically.
Yeah, so basically it's the concept that our brains don't know how to shut off, so we create problems and try and find solutions. And that is a lot of the cause of wars and, you know, diplomatic spats and that kind of thing, is because our egos get in the way, and we can't break away from that. You know, it's just instinct that, you know, you got to protect what is yours and try and gain off whoever you're trying to. And we, as a society, we do it every day. You know, for example, I go to work to get to earn $1, so I gain from putting myself out there to get $1 so I can live. You know,
support you and your girlfriend.
Exactly.
I was just going to say, like, because I'm just about to start working, which is unusual. You know, I'm a kind of a typical 50s woman, although, you know, I've done a lot of things like, you know, been in a band or whatever, but I'm still a woman that hasn't really worked. I don't have much experience. I've had children. I've stayed home and I've depended on a man. And I've enjoyed it a lot. And it's been a natural, you know, I think because we've been in a church through the middle years where we were trying to live a perfect life.
Yeah.
You know, not drinking at all. That's a very un-Australian thing, because I was never an alcoholic, but for some reason, like, you know, it was made to feel, because I've used alcohol, I guess, to try and feel better in some way, you know, that's a problem drinker. And then I like to have other experiences. And, well, really what I did was I am too influenced by other people. So I'm just trying to be an individual when I think men
it depends who's influencing you, really.
Yeah, it seems like I'm a typical girl and I'm trying to just be a human when, like, I'm, you know, for men, I don't know if you agree, you're brought up to be an individual so that you're the one that makes your mark on the world.
Well,
you've got to support your family, so you have to be the one and only to go out and make a living.
Well, I think like a third of you is you, and the other 2/3 is your parents.
What's that? A third of women today?
No. A third of you as a person.
Right.
I think is yourself, and the other 2/3 are your parents. You know, third each.
Well,
yeah, okay. Yeah, interesting.
Not necessarily. I wouldn't say that. I would say when you first start off, when you're born, you're a part of both your parents, whether whatever direction that goes, you know. As you develop and you become a teenager, you are right. You're part yourself, part, you know, your parents. And then once you become an adult, you become your own individual with your own ideas, you know, whether it's good or bad.
What about, like, they say friends are the most important thing?
I mean, I'm probably more like, I'd say I'm more like mum than I am like dad.
Correct. But
yeah.
On that is a aspect of your growing up, and, you know, the environment you grew up in, and those factors, again, it's like the Michael Jackson one.
Yeah,
it's very much a product of the environment.
Yeah, it sounds like, Troy, that you respect your mum and you want to be more like her. Like, she seems to have very high education, and I'm looking to my mum. She's got the kind of antisocial autism part that I'm trying to figure out, you know, why I'm so socially awkward. But I love how she's just broken every rule. It's like she's unaware she is aware of how she should act. Something inside her, just a natural thing. I reckon, like, you know, on the spectrum.
Well, I mean, I don't think that I can ever be as you know, great as mum, but I, you know, think very much like her.
Yeah. Well, like my mum, I want to be like my mum, where she doesn't care about social rules, and that's where my anxiety stems from. So it's like she has the key. You've just got to be a crazy, you know, she's just a crazy person. Like and she's so fun. Like, I used to hate her. She used to embarrass me, you know, because I wanted her to be a normal mum, and now all of a sudden.
But I think that's pretty normal, though. You know.
Yeah.
Because you know, you
totally normal.
That stage of your life, I think, when you're like, you know, coming into your adolescence, you know, your mum's a bit embarrassing, you think, you know, obviously from, you know, your friends' point of view, if you get what I'm saying, because, you know, you want the approval of your peers.
Well, they used to come to our house. I've got 8 siblings, and mum, I think that partly drove her insane. And she's from Malta. You know, Australia's full of people from different countries escaping wars and whatnot. She was escaping Gaddafi. I don't know. I should look into.
Oh, that'd be Libya.
Yeah. So you seem to I just taught my daughter about Israel and Palestine today, but there's so much history and stuff I don't know. But yeah, Mum.
I remember Gaddafi. He was I actually even though I obviously was hearing how much of a villain he was, I did love him for his fashion sense.
People have been saying that he's not that bad or something. That if she seems to have trauma from losing her culture in Malta, and as great as Australia is, Malta, all these little European cities, countries, they're very community orientated, and she just lost it in one go, and she's suddenly living her husband's life, or her father wanting her to get married. She marries an Australian, and he's a lovely guy, but he doesn't communicate, and they have a terrible marriage, but they're Catholic, so they can never divorce because Dad's very loyal to his church. So yeah, I like his loyalty, but it was painful, I think.
Do you guys want to bring it back around to obviously the situation we find ourselves in?
Yeah. It's all linked. Like it seems like as we're talking, I've been wanting to bring it back too, but
sorry.
It's all important. It's all relevant.
It's relevant.
It's important. It links. Like
I was thinking it was very scattered.
Like I feel like I've got this new religion called existentialism, where it's like you're just questioning existence, and everyone. But now we're. So what do you think?
Sorry, I wasn't trying to be rude. I was.
You mean the vaccines, or what specifically would? Are you thinking?
Well,
the situation, the lockdown.
Oh, the lockdown.
All right, let's start with that. So, Maureen, what do you think is the do you reckon it's the failings of government, or do you think it's people's stupidity? What do you think of the situation?
Well, it seems clearer how kind of dumb politicians are. That they're doing the same thing, like you were saying. Like no one wants to take the blame. They're always, and they're inefficient. What's that word? They're just not getting it right. You're looking at them going, God, these politicians didn't get there for merit. They're from the right families, they're from the right social class. And even, like the Labor leader, he's been talking a lot because, ScoMo's apparently missing again because, Victoria's been asking for money for their small businesses, and the acting premier is just going on and on and on. It sounded good the first time he said it. Oh, we're giving $250 million to small businesses. And I'm like, oh, that's good. But then for 20 minutes, he just repeats himself. Victoria, the government, we're giving $250 million. This $250 million is going to...
It's almost like they're reading up a script, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, like, do you even... Yeah, you don't care. It's great. Yeah, you're giving money to small businesses. It's going to help. Well, then shut up and fuck off, or talk about something else. They're just going on and on about it. Where's the federal, where's ScoMo? Because they're the Labor government here. I think, this is an election year. So you just can't trust them. Like you never could trust them.
Yeah. And I mean, with my mum, like she's always been a workhorse. She used to work crazy 100-hour weeks. And,
really?
It just seems to be this, what's it called, embrace of statism, and that's not even like statism, what, the full ball libertarian right talk about. I mean, like, believing that the state should be forever in your life, in literally every aspect, including your sex life.
And
they should be, trying to do, a bit of problem solving. They should be doing as much problem solving as they can.
Yeah, social engineering and social dictatorship, basically.
Yeah.
And look, it's very much any government, the more they know about their citizens, they're going to be up for knowing about that, because at the end of the day, again, there is outside groups and outside people that will always try and push the limit.
Mm.
And unfortunately, I think a lot of that is these people particularly have a lot of power at the moment.
Mm.
They don't want to exactly give it up because, again, you know, they can feel like they're important, and that comes to where the ego comes into it again.
Mm.
You know, a lot of them, and you listen to the way they speak to the public compared to where they speak when they're in Parliament. It's almost a different personality, every single one of them. You know, particularly and Andrews. I remember last year listening to him talk, you know, to the media and that, and then 2 hours later he's talking to the Parliament, and it's a different person, you know. And
yeah, because obviously that's an art performance in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. So again, these people know exactly what they're going to say and know fear. And again, it doesn't have any real life applications on their life. They're still getting their paycheck. They're still fear.
You still got his $45,000 pay rise.
How do the lefties? It seems just weird to me that he's all about being left, but he's still just this elitist.
Well, not just left, he's authoritarian far left.
I just don't know who these, like, because I still call myself a lefty. I don't know what, like, I hate the Greens, only because...
I'll be back in a minute. Sorry, I'm going to go toilet.
Yeah. Nice, mate.
You know, the Greens, they represent what I would probably represent, but there's something really wrong with these people that they just won't speak openly with a norm. I just think of myself as a normal person, and I forget that I have a very Aussie accent, and I think that I get judged for being like poorly educated. And you know, if I say I have children, I'm instantly judged as, you know, like a stupid woman, which is very, you know, that should be considered sexist, when apparently they're all for feminism, but I'm not.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, obviously if you're to the right of them, it's never enough, is it? It's never good enough.
Well, like, it must be a disgusting thing to be a stay-at-home woman. And I think it's, they've just maybe never been in the working class. Like, I don't know. Are they, like, if you came straight out of high school into uni, you don't know any different. Like, even if they live in share houses, and a lot of them might live, you know, we have to eat 2-minute noodles every day. Like, they feel like they're poor, but they've never not had an education. That's what I'm saying. When the poor, you know, poor in Australia is never hungry unless you're a drug addict or something and you spend all your money. But you're always going to, to me, like, poor is poorly educated. And the people I went to school with, it's funny, the girl who recently kicked, you know, she told me to stop talking, basically, because she owns the post, you know, like, because she owns the post that we were arguing on. I'm the one that has to just stop talking. But like, she was going to uni when we lived in a share house with her, and I had a boyfriend. We just used to listen to music and smoke bongs. You know, we were 18 and no responsibilities, and she's going, oh, I have to do everything. I go to uni, and now it's, you know, 30 years later, 25 or something, and I've
been... So you were just smoking bongs, and you're still intellectually superior to these people.
Well, I don't know. Like, we just meet up online 25 years later, and it really feels like she's talking to her little brother. Was in my class, and he was the loveliest guy, you know, anyone's ever met, and he's interested in doing this, but you know, you just get terrified of people, what they say to you. Like, she's disgusted in me. How you're victim blaming. That's all I have to say. You're a victim blamer, and it's meant to come to an end, and I'm just not going to accept it.
What did you say?
Well, those people...
Girls should be taught. Girls could, just all these different ways of thinking.
Oh yeah, like what's
we
it
should
called?
teach boys.
Solutions to
We
how
should
you
teach
can avoid
boys.
obviously
Yeah.
the same problem in the future.
Yeah, because we've tried all these different programs that I don't think work, and it's obviously education that works. And which I don't know, there should be, if they want to spend billions of dollars, and then maybe have a new feminism where women are responsible for their own. I would gladly, and I think Clementine Ford, she'll move in and out of it. Like, she'll be all about teaching girls how, about men. She'll be like, oh sweetie, they're lying to you. That people will send in their individual story, and I was really enjoying listening to her advice to each individual story. But then she just goes back to that bullshit about that it's just men in general that are fucked, and they're the ones that have to change. Why should we change? When it's like, okay, there are a lot of young men that are opportunistic. I think it's got to do with the levels of testosterone, that opportunism is a natural thing. But
Well, I mean, I agree, and I accept that obviously, there's toxic masculinity out there,
Yeah,
but I
so
don't
somehow they're
obviously
linked.
agree or accept that there isn't any toxic femininity.
well, I think that girls are part of the toxic masculinity. Like, I'm not blaming the girls, but we've kind of let it happen, because we like bad boys, or we like the boys that are able to talk, and they're full of shit.
Yeah.
And they're lying.
Yeah, but you
And they might
like
be
bad boys
lying.
because they're exciting. They excite you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking
Not
that.
you personally, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I put
get-
myself. That's why I kind of feel confident about this. That they
Sorry.
yell
I
at
just
me.
didn't want you to feel like I was, making it personal or something like that.
Yeah, I just sort of feel like I can only say it unless I do know personally. Look, I don't know if it's the absolute truth, but I just feel like these ideas that I want to place in, they come from what I personally know that me and other girls do with men. And for me, it's because when I was young, I was very shy, but I was pretty, these couple of, so I had, the kind of boys that would try their luck, and they were really nice, males that were friends growing up with, and I should have gone out with them, but I went out with the bad boys, and I'm glad nothing terrible happened to me. I just don't like aggressive people.
But it was because of the fact it was exciting, though, wasn't it? You found it exhilarating.
Yeah, so they might have been bad boys, but not in a violent sense, in a kind of or the drug taking, because I don't consider myself an addict that needs help like addicts, but I get caught up in the drug world because of, I still don't know, but maybe they pretend they're not that badly into it, and then then you go to their house and that's all they do. Even marijuana, like it's a low risk drug, but so many people just smoke day in, day out, and they know that it's wasting their life, and they'll get a girlfriend. I've just gone out with a couple where they're like, oh yeah, I go to work, I don't smoke that much, and then you just hang around them, and that's all they do. So
it's
then
what-
it gets boring again.
yeah.
So what's it called, to bring it back to the lockdown? My theory is, of course, is that my cousin was going on those objectively awful pro Daniel Andrews rants, saying how he made the virus disappear. And I was saying to Mum, so State Labor were like, well, it's time to re-import it again.
Well, it feels like it's the only thing they could do. So yeah, I mean, I just wonder, like, if you spend a lot of time talking amongst all those anti-Dan Andrews groups, like, they were funny, but in the end I think I was sort of like, well, I'm not researching this stuff, so I've got to stop just listening to quite strong opinions, I suppose, is what it seems to me.
Yeah.
But they could be correct opinions. But
Well,
I
again,
have to take, I can't just like accept it when I'm not. I don't know if I find Australian politics is too boring compared to, America is so funny. Like they're giving away $1 million to 10 people, but the incentive is to get the vaccine.
again, you gotta look with that. It's kind of like every country has jumped at these this situation, bought all these vaccines, and then they've gone, oh shit, we actually have to sell it.
God.
Where it's, if it's good or bad, we still
God.
have to sell what we've got bought, because we bought this product.
God, it's just terrifying. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I want Kate in there because I don't want to get the vaccine. I feel like I've given in, and so I need to listen to people who, yeah.
Look,
You're
I'm
further down the road a bit,
not-
but I think Kate's further down the road.
Look, I could go
About health,
a little
about
bit
what it's
deeper,
actually
but
doing to us,
yeah,
to
but
our bodies.
more I look at it from this point of view. I know a few of my workmates, because since what's happened, they've gotten scared, and it's worked. They've booked themselves in. They're going for the vaccine. They don't care.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, all they've seen on mainstream media is this Indian variant, which is devastating over there. So they're thinking, holy shit, But again, there is a real risk factor with this one. It's out in the media. Blood clots, that kind of thing. Who knows what else is in it?
Well, my daughter got the first. It was kind of scary, but it is the clot thing is a rare thing. But she got the first dose, and then I think 2 days later is when they said we're going to stop the AstraZeneca because of the risk. And she was like, God, I've had the first one, but I mean, she didn't get any side effects because I think it happens within a few days, doesn't it? The clot.
Well, no, all that again. This is where there is so much little information over a period of time where most vaccines have not been developed in such a short time. They've taken years and years where they've slowly worked on it, where this has been a global effort, and everyone's and it's been chucked together. Again, those factors are unknown, so we won't know until 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, even 10 years later, if it has any side effects, And by that time,
it's different to the ones we've all had, isn't it? Like it works in a different way.
Well, again, it's new technology, the technology is altering DNA.
God,
which is genetic engineering is still very new field on humans. Like they're just scratching the surface with that stuff. And again, this is where it's been sold as this. Oh, well, it's a complete thing when it's not a complete thing. They still haven't worked out the kinks, and that is where when you look it up, it's a trial. It's not an actual vaccine that's been approved. It's only been approved for emergency uses.
Well, I mean, the fact that it's only 2/3 effective, to me, like that's very disturbing. Very troubling. That's woefully inadequate.
So they know that for sure, do they? That what's only.
Well, that's what I saw in the thumbnail of the Vox video, that it's only 66% effective.
Yeah. I'm saying that is only one source, and again, no one knows. Not even the scientists that are working on this even know how percentage effective it is going to be in the long run.
You mean if it's even that high?
Yep, exactly. Because again, the trials aren't long enough for them to get an accurate reading compared to other vaccines.
So you're saying Pfizer might be less effective than 95% then?
100%. And again, what genetic engineering does on a cellular level, altering human beings, what does that do on a cellular level, you know?
Well, obviously,
no one
it's
knows. No one
obviously
knows.
it's to make us dependent, isn't it, on the state, on
Well,
you know, obviously being like you said, rodents, and you know, those human settlement grids.
yeah, well,
Yeah, I
again,
think that maybe we don't care enough because we have been dependent. I feel like I've come out of 13 years living in dependence in a, you know, middle class existence, and now I'm just coming out of it and looking back where I had everything done for me. You know, I'm living in the country, I'm so weak. It's almost like I'm asking myself, do I want to be free? And it seems like it's the only thing I've wanted. And now that I'm kind of have the opportunity to have more freedom, it's almost like, God, I could almost not go back to that lifestyle because it's so deathly dull. You know, you're just doing what everyone else does, and you know, you go over to your neighbours. Oh, how are you? How's the weather? You know, and then you have a bitch about some other neighbours. This was my whole socialising when I lived in outer suburbs Melbourne, and but yeah, it's almost like, I don't know if it's called nihilism as well, where you just don't care. It's just like, well, I don't care if it changes my DNA, and you don't really know why you don't care, but it just doesn't mean that much. But you know, it's like, you know, when Kate talks, she talks about having her, you know, physically being healthy, and you got not many years to life, but you want to be healthy and you want to be. It affects your mind too, genetic engineering, and all.
Well, I don't think that they don't care about it. I think that they think that you know, it's, you know, too over the top, too real. You know.
well, again,
they think it's the right thing to do, but yeah,
it comes down to programming, social programming. You know, psychology. You know, you got to look at the way that politicians particularly talk. Yeah, you know, the psychological wording they use, you know, literally sways the way people think, you know. So again, it would make sense that
sad.
it's really sad when you think about it, and unfortunately, this has been our human race's greatest weapon, our minds, and unfortunately, people just they have been tuned out from that, tuned out from realism, you know, from the point of view that, you know, what is it really to live, you know, going out and getting some to eat from, you know, the environment, hunting, fishing, that kind of shit, gathering, and to this system where everything is basically delivered to you. You know, that creates dependence, as Troy says, you know, and eventually, you know, those people that have control will have that many people begging that for this, you know, dependence, because they have nothing else to their life, because their life has been completely derailed, and you know, again,
by COVID.
By COVID, you know, again, I question what the wording of COVID-19, you know, well, you know, COVID, you know, when I think of that word, I think of COVID operations, you know. That's the first thing I come to, you know, not a virus, not a coronavirus, you know, not a flu, you know. I think
is COVID the name they gave to this, because coronavirus is a group of viruses, isn't it?
So the group of
COVID-19, okay,
yeah, which, you know, wouldn't, you know, and like the way they spell it, you know, COVID, ID, you know, that makes me think that this is more an information gathering thing, you know, a study on society in a situation where what would happen if something like this happened.
Well, I just can't help but think that it's been.
You can't look up COVID. I'm just looking up the word COVID.
And not just exported.
No.
You know, because to me, I mean, it's just worked out so well for China. I think too well for it to have been accidental.
Well, again, even the US don't even know if they're lied to trying to lie to him. Fauci was caught out yesterday.
Yeah, well, that's what I found, and
Yeah.
I sent you guys. Yeah,
Yeah, he how do you know? And he's like, we don't know.
Which one's Fauci? He's the
He's the
American.
head of American. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's the one that's flip flopped on decisions with masks, that kind of thing.
but he said, that was I think it was highly likely. Certainly he said that it was very likely that Trump would be derailed by an infectious disease, and he said this at the very beginning of Trump's presidency,
Because
as he was about to become president.
with that,
Really?
Trump was never meant to win.
Yeah.
Hillary.
Yeah, no, what's it called? I think it was pretty much they were trying to get him out as soon as they could, and obviously they pretty much had it basically that he would be there no longer than obviously his opening term, his full opening term.
Yeah. And again,
I'm just looking at the word COVID, how they got it. It's an acronym of the World Health Organization. Yeah.
Yeah.
Coronavirus disease of 2019. COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's basically just pretty much Molino wanted obviously to have his own lockdown.
Who's that?
Molino, I think he wanted his
Molino.
chance at it. The education minister.
Education minister.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the deputy premier for Victoria.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's the one that.
Is he the Yeah, he's the stand-in.
Yeah.
Because I mean, obviously, this is going to keep happening, because obviously it's not going to get resolved. Because if for it to obviously get resolved, obviously, it would come out that they were responsible. And obviously, we can't have that now. I mean, even though obviously these, Marxists, their reputation should already be destroyed. It should already be in, tatters, if you get what I'm trying to say. But no, they're still, covering their ass. And obviously, some of us, obviously not us three, but obviously some Victorians are still buying that, it's a legitimate government that, deserves the credit for obviously making the virus disappear, even though they've reimported it now, of course.
There's two reasons for that, and that is fear. Fear of the unknown, the fear of not knowing what the future holds.
The belief in, obviously, the state is God.
Yeah, well, and also that it's more like Australia itself has never seen major conflict, like not directly aimed at us, For example, we haven't had any civil wars like America or any major conflict where, look at the Palestine and Israeli situation. Like, we haven't had any of that. And so
they've got religious difference. Yeah.
Yeah. So
do you see like the like the Freedom March? Wasn't there a huge one? I think it was in England.
Yeah, Westminster. Yeah.
They had tens of thousands. They said the same one last year or last month. There was like hardly any, and then like a month or two later, you got tens of thousands just suddenly joining.
And I think
they're not just anti-vaxxers
anymore.
It's a whole new complex.
So
being anti-vax, it's about being
political freedom and freedom of speech, and it all ties into one another. If you look long enough, you start noticing a bit of a pattern, and it comes down to the political correctness is basically a weapon to be used against anyone who speaks out. Yeah. So there goes your freedom of speech. Then, you got your governments enforcing lockdowns and, America, giving out money to those who get vaccinated, you know, and a chance of making it big, you know.
Crazy.
It's a game. It's a big fucking game when you look at it. And I'm sorry for my language, but that's how I describe it. And, you know, again, everyone who loses is generally the people at the bottom. And everyone who wins is generally the people at the top that come off telling the story.
Yeah,
It's
well,
very,
I mean,
They
Lauren
have
Southern
to.
said
They have
it
to
herself.
appeal to the people at the bottom, don't they? Or they have to keep a middle class. Like Bernie Sanders is always going on about expanding the middle class because that's what he sees as, you know, that's where everyone wants to be. So, like, you know, so it's not good for them to have so many poor people.
If he started encouraging people to go upper class, that limits the upper class resources, and then they become the middle class.
Yeah,
so it's always someone, you know, has to have it over another, and it's been throughout history like that. You know, as long as we've had empires and that kind of thing, there's always been a ruling class.
Yeah. He's from that small period, like what I lived in the early 90s, the 60s, where they gave out free education and all those baby boomers did a degree, but then it's like they did nothing with it almost. Or
again, a lot. America particularly just come out of World War II, dealing with Vietnam War. They need people, you know, to replace those people that did go off and fight war and unfortunately didn't make it back. So again, that's why the American, you know, again, you had your baby boom, you know, you had your season of love with the 60s, you know, because
Generation X.
Yeah, and you know that it went into Generation X and then the millennials, you know.
And I'm kind of in between because the Generation X are older than me, and then I
was about to say, wouldn't that be you actually?
Then there was a Gen Y period. Gen Y seemed to have disappeared or something, and then I got told, "Well, you're Gen Y, but it's just this short period." Then moving into the millennials, and then my kid.
We're Generation Y. Yeah, Marky and I are Generation Y.
I think you'll be the.
So you don't think that you're millennials?
I think you're X.
We grew up as millennials, but we weren't born in the area of millennials. So
that's what
what's it called? Because 89, 91. Yeah,
that was when it was a lot of the misdirection was started. You know, a lot of this social programming. You know.
Yeah, that's right. Because it was the mid-90s
life was really comfortable and boring.
When feminists were getting offended over men being in words or boys or whatever.
Yeah. So
not that long ago.
Man or man, whatever you want to call it, you know, whatever to do with males. They were getting offended over just the word, you know, the word male or something being in another word.
Yeah.
Like boysenberry,
the
for example.
90s. Yeah, someone changed her name to Awumda. So she had the word womb in her name, and then people were using women, what is it? Woman, like W-O-M.
Like, for example, getting offended over the word history because it has he's in it.
Oh. But that seemed to be in that 90s, and now words, like they say, postmodernism and Marxism is about language. I didn't get that idea, but now I can see, and that must be their social engineering idea that whatever words you put into the society will.
That makes your character. Yeah, it's because it's these people that, as I like to describe it, the first world problems. They haven't seen hardships. They haven't had to suffer. So their reality is built on, you know, fighting this false idea of, you know, being good, you know, and again, that comes down to perspective, you know, you know, from their perspective, they're good. They're doing the right thing, you know, they're trying to contribute to society in their own way, which is nothing wrong with that, you know, It's
I
just
see it. I see as the middle class, that they're destroying the environment, and that's why I hate the Greens so much. That the Victorian government is still cutting down forests out here, where we've lost, I think, 2/3. Well, 2/3 of Gippsland apparently was burned, and it's all
Yeah.
coming back. But I don't think they should be cutting down forests anymore. And
I
yeah,
agree
they're
with
caught
you
up,
from
like you said, distracted by other things.
yeah, like 100% you're right. Yeah,
And they live in
forestry.
the city, and they just drink coffee, and they're angry at everyone.
Inner city, yeah.
What the
Yeah.
hell are you angry at?
Yeah, again, it's the perspective, you know. Oh, I've got it so bad because the A, B, C, and D issues in my life are bad, you know. When you know those are very minute to say X, Y, Z problems that a third world person would be facing, you know. For example, starvation or lack of
Yeah.
water,
Yeah.
you know.
Or like
Exactly.
women in war, they use rape as one of the biggest, terrorist.
Well,
That's how you weaken a community.
Yeah, in the Congo, that's right.
Oh,
yeah,
and the women here, what are we whinging about? Like,
yeah.
you
So
know, going
that,
out, getting drunk, and
I rape.
yeah. Well, see, that goes down to it's a lot of the old.
getting taken advantage of when
Well,
it's I don't know. I guess from being naive, yeah.
yeah.
complicated
So,
things, but
like
yeah.
for example, the way I see it, yeah, when you say something like that, that comes from old instincts of the back in the Viking days and the medieval times. The men would kill off the kids, get the women pregnant because that would establish that line to live on.
So they would impregnate women from another bloodline instead of from their own bloodline, so that whole culture that they're trying to
spread or whatever, or idealism, and that's what's happening these days, and that's why you're finding a lot of these people that are moved into the trans movement and all these, they're bringing these kids up, and I would hate to see what those kids are going to be growing up to, because they're going to be that freaking confused that they're going to not have any idea what is real. This concept that they've bought up on is going to be their reality. And that is a sad fact, And
well, yeah, that's the issue I've kind of focused on. Like, I've seemed to have dropped out of politics and all these other things, but that it interests me, I think, because I'm, a natural woman. So I've been listening to that argument more than the others. And they say that the trans issue really shows this, all this stuff that's linked. The trans is where it's the most radical, or the most, insane, or the most.
So,
well, Marxism as a whole is, in general.
Yeah. So with the trans movement particularly, it's more, again, I personally think, and this is where Kate and that would probably back me up a little bit, it goes into depopulation, this belief that, if you train a whole culture to be confused in their sexuality, they're not going to be wanting to recreate life or reproduce or anything like that.
Especially if they get gender reassignment surgery.
Well, exactly. That completely eliminates that possibility. So, again, those issues are funded by these very people that want to kind of push this idea that,
But then I see it sort of shifting, and again, England, like the one woman I watch the most, sort of, she has a thing going every day. I like how she's really driven. She's in the England. So they were going to have self ID, where they just, that's insane to just go. What happens to all those opportunistic men that are go to prison. Okay, all I have to do is say I'm a woman and I'll get put in a women's prison, and then, you know, like a rape crisis center, and then what else was there? Sport. And they just had their what we need to do in Melbourne. There is a place in Melbourne called Speaker's Corner, but England have a very famous, you know, over the hundreds of years that they've had wars and stuff, they've always had
Trafalgar Square?
Speaker's Corner. Huh?
Is that what you're talking about? Trafalgar Square? Is that, you know, their
I'm not
equivalent?
sure, it was Hyde Park,
Yeah.
because they were there
Right.
Sunday, which was today's Sunday here.
Is
They must have
Speaker's
been
Square
last week.
America?
They're doing it once a month. What's that?
It was Speaker's Square, is that right? Is that what you said? Is that in America?
They call it Speaker's Corner in England. America, I think, because it's just the land of the free.
Oh yeah, they
They
don't
even
have
have
that.
the need, you know, they've got.
Yeah.
But then
Because it's in their constitution.
maybe it's what did you call it? Speaker's.
Well, did you say Speaker's Square?
Speaker's Corner.
Speaker's Corner.
I think Speaker's Square. Does that come from?
So that's in Hyde Park.
Yeah, and usually it's just Jews and Muslims arguing, and it's quite interesting. There's quite a few videos that you can watch between them, but they're just arguing about, you know, it's just about freedom of speech, and it's annoying because the one I've seen a few times, this huge hulking Muslim guy and this little Jewish man, and they're just doing kind of you know, psyching each other out, you know, instead of having a respectful, they think they're being respectful, but they're just kind of, you know, because it's about religion. So it's like, my religion's the truth and yours is a lie, and then the other one's, you know, yours is a lie.
The
So
old spill of,
you're not really going to get anywhere.
yeah, then it never ever get anywhere. And again, because it's such, because the ideological ideas is pretty much exactly the same cross with all religions. You know, they're all based on one form or another, especially
God,
you know, especially older religions like, you know, what the Greeks and the Norse and the Egyptians believed in. If you listen to and look at the way their structured God system is, it's all the same. You know, they've just got different names. And again, the major religions these days, and you know, Catholic and Christian religion is, they seem different, but they're exactly the same. Like they have exactly the same belief system and all that. And then you got Muslims, and then you got the Buddhists, and then the Hindus. You know, and they're all their religions are set up exactly the same. So again,
but they just think their particular type is the truth. And it scares me because it's like these people you know, they believe that this is reality, when I'm all about, like, I don't know, you know, reality is just a trip, because it's something different for each of us. We're all
have our own different perspectives. Yeah.
The
what's
Speaker's Corner, the TERFs. I was just expecting the trans activists to come by and, you know, start yelling abuse, but no. You know, one day they'll cotton on that the TERFs are going to Speaker's Corner every month, and I'm questioning what my interest is. I don't think I'm interested in watching people fight, but I'm waiting for the day to see both sides present.
What do you think of Israel, Maureen?
Well, it's interesting today to I was trying to educate my youngest daughter, and we watched the Q&A. That was, as much as Q&A is annoying, and that fucking, sorry, that's a good word.
TV program for Marxists and communists.
Very, very
it's
strange.
the guy that
What?
the guy that's the moderator who shits me, bloody Hamish something.
Yeah.
But they had some Jewish people and some well-spoken Palestinians who brought out they just laid out why the hell it's exactly the same as it was, you know, decades ago, and it's kind of a mess, isn't it? Like Israel, they want to be there because they think they're God's chosen people, but then you got the Zionists who look at literal Jerusalem is their they own it. So but they've got the money and the firepower, which comes from America. They give them $3 billion a year just to the Israel. And then, and then the Jewish people are, to me, whinging. I mean, they do have the right to say, we want protection, but it's like, because then they're talking about Hamas. So I didn't know enough about that group, Hamas, who has overtaken Gaza, and they've kind of imprisoned the Palestinians. So the Palestinian woman is saying, when we don't agree with Hamas, forget them. We're just trying to live ourselves. You're killing hundreds of us, and you're the ones that did the first move. It happens when Israel push some families out, but then Hamas don't want a two-state. They want Israel gone, and that's highly unlikely to happen. So
yeah, because I mean, I used to be like, think maybe not that Israel were totally innocent, but I used to think obviously that they were, very easily, the better side, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then I obviously learnt a few years ago that Israel don't really, what's it called? They believe in obviously closed borders for themselves, and I think they should be able to have them. But they don't exactly return the favor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they are just being colonizers.
Skeptical of them.
They're being colonizers. They look more white. That I don't know if that's how much of a. And I'm telling my daughter, the history of anti-Semitism, and then how Jewish people, for some reason, are usually really highly educated, and they do take over those industries where they've, it's not like they don't deserve to be movie directors and all, they basically own Hollywood, but there's all that talent. It's not like they've just had the money, but that could be, I don't know enough.
So yeah, it makes me think that they're kind of both the bad guys, bad guys versus bad guys. Because I mean, the Palestinians, they're very twisted, warping their children,
from their religious,
brainwashing them. Yeah, exactly. And the fact they own so much more land in Israel.
That comes down to a lot of what they've been taught. It comes down to these years and years and years and years and centuries of fighting that's been happening between them. And it's so ingrained into their culture that unfortunately not in our lifetime they're gonna solve it, because unfortunately there's just no way of breaking them out of what their beliefs,
But yeah, like I obviously, like I'd said, I don't really see Israel as pretty much, not being perfect, but obviously, being angels anymore, because, it makes you think. They, don't support our sovereignty to have closed borders. That makes me really skeptical of them.
Well, yeah, again, it comes down to the enemy will always want, and it comes down to information is power. You can't, with information, especially these days, wars were fought with physical strength. These days you can't do that, So again, information is key. And again, the more information they have around the world, the more they're able to determine if someone is a threat or whatever. But, on saying that, I will say this with the Israelis, their defense technology, very impressive.
Very advanced.
Very impressive.
Yeah, well, I mean, they get the money from America. I don't know where else they would get.
Oh,
it's like Netanyahu is a bit corrupt, though. Like, wasn't he up for some kind of crimes about accepting bribes, or maybe people were just trying to topple him?
Have you heard that Israel is responsible for, you know, obviously the degeneracy, you know, the over the top diversity? Have you guys heard about that at all?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Israel.
Yep. Because again, information centers and that are all based in Israel.
Mm.
Everything that goes through the internet from Australia pretty much goes through there. So
Oh wow.
yeah, that's the part of the deals of having global networks. You know, again, it comes down to what Troy was saying before. They're not too fond on. They want closed border for themselves, but not too fond on that. And
So what do you mean by what is closed borders? Closed border.
Well,
like,
you know, it just means not obviously, you know, letting just anyone in, you know, having like an orderly immigration system.
Yeah. So, you know,
I can't imagine what Israel, like, I think it's hard to imagine what Israel looks like from here. Like, I even did another unit of study where we studied 7 different wars. And I did mainly the IRA and the, you know, the English, the Protestant Catholic one.
Yeah.
I did my study on that, but we did learn a bit about Israel, Palestine, but it's just so hard to imagine because we're such a young nation as well. And then we've got our own fights about the indigenous people. So that's like another thing. Like we don't care enough. Like when I say we don't care, I just really feel like that I was brought up in this middle class TV, you know, just droning media, and we, you know, advertising. We seem to be rebelling against something, but it was short-lived, and it just came through in the music. And you know, I wonder if I'm just still, because I never went off to work, and I just, even though, you know,
Well, I used to watch a lot of TV.
Yeah, it's funny when I tell my kids, because they're going, how do you know all these movies, you know, the Netflix and Binge and Prime, and there's just, I think I've seen every movie from the 80s and 90s. There's some crap movies with famous people that I'm looking at, and that you can see why they didn't make it. But yeah, like I was just saying, we were the same. Like my kids are on their screens and they do kind of creative stuff, but I mean, really it is just TikTok videos and
we'll see.
Whatever other stuff.
See, again, that's just the nature of the society that's formed over, you know, the internet being created and that kind of thing, and the connectionness of people. You know, look at the situation. Look how we're communicating. 20 years ago, you would never imagine we'd be doing this kind of thing, would you? You know, I wouldn't. Certainly not. You know, so again, it's not so much the technology; it's how it's used. And again,
because it's just a tool.
It's a tool, and again, you know, wars aren't won by physical violence these days. They're won by psychological violence and, you know, economic downturnship and that kind of thing. And like, for example, as Troy pointed out before, China are well set up now that if they really wanted to, it wouldn't be that hard for them to establish down further than what they have.
Alex Jones, very, what's it called? You know, intelligently, you know, called his show InfoWars. You know, or perhaps more insightfully, but yeah.
Yeah, well, again, with Alex Jones, and this is what I've realized over the years of partly listening to him and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
He does it to be outlandish, you know, because the stuff that he talks about and has been talking about is so out there that, you know, you would be betrayed as a crazy person. So of course he drums it up.
I have to give him props. I have to give him props for dressing up as you know, a gay frog. Did you see that?
Yeah, we'll
that
see.
Was so hilarious. Mass respect for that.
Yeah. Recently?
Oh, it was a couple or so years ago he did that?
Yeah, something like that.
I've seen him talk with Milo Yiannopoulos recently.
Yes.
And was he on Joe Rogan? No, Joe Rogan.
Yeah, he was on Joe Rogan. Yeah.
Joe says that he's too crazy to have him on. Or has he been on Joe Rogan?
He's been
he's been on.
Like recently, yeah.
Apparently
it was
he
like a
said
couple
he's
months ago.
kind of retarded on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Which I guess is
It's
fair enough, because I mean,
think
I
people-
kind of am too. So I mean, you know.
I think he's going to survive, and because I love how he talks about how he was with his program, and then even before that, how they talk about how they broke into, they got on the property of a kind of a ultra rich people's meeting where they were just pretending to do sacrifices, but
Yeah.
because who are we talking about?
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones or Joe Rogan.
Yeah, either one.
Yeah.
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 Because Joe Rogan's had other people on, and they've told stories about Alex Jones, and I reckon like the younger generations, and they just like him. The InfoWars era, when would that have started? Like 10 years ago, or?
Yeah, I think it was when Marky and I were still at school, when we were still going to high school.
Seems like an old,
Yeah.
But he's older now, and he hasn't disappeared, and he
has a 16-year-old son now. It might be 17. But yeah.
I just remember him from who are the Young Turks. They were there when Trump won, and that all the lefties were devastated.
Yeah.
And Alex Jones crashed. Yeah, the Young Turks programming at the what do you call it? The election.
Got involved in that fight with Cenk.
Yeah. So when was it? That would have been 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And so now it's been 4 or 5 years later. Trump probably didn't cause as much grief, and they haven't learned their lesson at all. I don't know anything about Joe. What's his name? The president?
Joe Biden.
Yeah, it just seems like, well, it's just back to the status quo in America.
Oh, he's so out of it, that guy.
That unfortunately, that is very much how.
Is he still? Does he still look out of it, even now? Or
yeah? Oh, worse.
Did you see that driver's ed stunt?
Oh, so yeah, I was just sort of hanging shit on some Trump supporters because they were saying how much they miss him, and I'm like, isn't Trump? I mean, I know all politicians are sociopathic to some degree, but I don't know. He can't get his story straight about a lot of things, and they're probably side issues. They're probably things that the media just drum up that I just believe about Trump. And I did try to.
How we see 9-year-old girls as like 19. Well, at least I don't know exactly how old the girl really was, but Rita said she was in primary school, so I'm guessing she was like 9. I guess because the other reason I thought that was because obviously that sounds similar to 19, but that's really disturbing that he's seen literal children, especially girls, as in their late teens.
Yeah.
Who's this? Joe?
The one, yeah.
Yeah, that's what someone was mentioning that. Yeah, in this group about how much they miss Trump, but it's just like, oh.
I the thing that I miss the most about obviously Trump presidency is Kayleigh McEnany.
Who's that?
That was his spokesperson.
She was brilliant. I loved her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I've got an idea of who she is.
Yeah. She used to own the press. It was so hilarious.
Yeah.
But then, the new one, Joe Biden's that woman. See, like the whole left, I'll be in their chat rooms or whatever, and they'll say that she owns the press, and then I go to the.
How is that the case?
Again, that's
because it's the way they're viewing it. Like that's
what the right wing media. That's what how they see it, is it?
Yeah, well, that's it. Exactly right, man. Again, there's always two sides of the story, and
So I always just think that the media is mainly left wing. Yeah.
Yeah,
She's
well,
left-wing.
but you know, you listen to the way they speak about Fox, you know.
Oh no,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have your Fox people.
Yeah, so again, that
Yeah.
is a, you know, that's
Or isn't the
right.
Murdoch media? I mean, they talk
Yeah,
about the Murdoch media here, and apparently it's But then I'm watching too much Friendly Jordies, and
Yeah.
he'll be saying how ABC. I don't know. I get so bloody influenced by people because
See,
the ABC's got some shitty programming and some really dodgy journalists that he
Yeah.
exposes, and I love how he just hammers them.
Mm.
But then
But-
there's some really great programs, and I don't know.
I watched the one recently with Kevin Rudd and that kind of thing, and
Oh, the Sky News
Yeah.
Man in the
And
Mirror documentary.
yeah,
and then,
Chris
and
Kenny
then the
did.
guy responded to
yeah,
them
and-
responding.
Well,
Yeah.
Mum and I watched that, and we didn't think that was really a negative documentary on him and Turnbull.
No.
I was actually, what's it called? Inspired by the fact that Kevin Rudd, grew up in poverty and lifted himself out of poverty to become Prime Minister.
That's a
Yeah,
great
'cause they
story.
had
That's
his
inspirational,
brother.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
again, as these journalists and that, and particularly Kevin 07,
Mm.
as he was known back in the
Yeah, he
day.
was
That's
a
it. I
rock
remember
star.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do remember.
Yeah.
You know, again, he was the one who was kind of setting up these deals with China and that.
He was a Chinese diplomat.
Mm.
Yeah, Chinese
That's
diplomat. He's
it.
the one that kick-started it. So
Yep.
Or like the
of course-
neoliberalism thing, which was always going to happen, wasn't it? Just
Yeah. And again,
Whatever
you find the deals with China, you know, for example, the free trade agreement in 2015 for Port of Darwin, you know, it was signed, and and that was all thanks to him, you know, setting it up. And unfortunately, this is where China have a lot to play in how our economic situation is now.
well, how
Yeah,
much
the
land
fact
do
that
they
we
own
owe
here?
so much money, coming up to $1 trillion.
They
Exactly.
bought land here. They own.
And again, it goes down to this it's no longer it's no longer warfare takeover, it's economic takeover. It's playing the diplomat game. I can't pronounce the word. Diplomat. Yeah.
Diplomacy.
Yeah, the diplomacy game, you know.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah,
I have
and
to look that up.
yeah.
Yeah, I heard when I got into the yellow vest movement, they were talking about China doing infrastructure projects in Western Australia.
Yeah, no, they've still got deals. It's very much the same as India have deals with Australia to have them come in, you know.
Yeah.
And again, they won't stop those deals because again, that is
economical.
What about like the Adani mine? Like that was a huge.
The Adani mine
seemed like a really bad deal.
Really bad deal from the point of view that it's allowed them to strip our resources instead of, you know, they can hire their own staff. They can bring in any staff they want. They don't have to hire from Australia. So which that limits the job market for any Australians that want to go into this, you know, because again, they have to pay a certain amount of wages, and they can easily get someone from overseas that will take half that wage, you know?
God, I wish that I asked you this 2 years ago.
Again, yeah, the economic challenges that Australia are facing, and again, I was not surprised with what they announced today and how the Labor government will go on about, you know, the federal government should be stepping up and that kind of thing. But the fact is that governments can't just be printing money, because once you start printing too much money,
yeah,
the money
devalues dollar.
It becomes zero. It's worth nothing.
Yeah.
You know? And then you have an economic crash, and then we end up being like Argentina, where you can't even get a loaf of bread without paying.
Yeah, I was talking about that with someone. Yeah, the way with Aaron, like he's into because he's a computer person. It kind of not goes over my head. It's sort of, you know, he'll describe how it's happened in, what did you say, Venezuela, where
Argentina.
Argentina.
And
Yeah. Venezuela's
where
broke too, but yeah.
Where money becomes meaningless and you can't buy a loaf of bread, but then you can like barter and
yeah, like the inflation in Zimbabwe is crazy. You know, like I feel a loaf of bread costs $1,000 over there.
God.
Yeah.
Didn't their crazy leader, he died, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
Robert Mugabe. They just fill the vacuum.
Yeah.
That vacuum of power with probably worse people.
But yeah, I mean, you know, used to be the breadbasket of Southern Africa.
Yeah.
But yeah, these uneducated blacks, and you know, because obviously they didn't understand, you know, why Marxism, communism is bad, you know, and that's the direction they wanted to go in, because you know, the white man is wrong, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah,
they're uneducated because, like, this happened in Nepal. All the young people went to other countries to get educated, and then they didn't return.
Yeah,
so there's no educated people. They're all just like peasants.
Yeah. Well, they just because they hated the white man, you know, us so much. I mean, it was actually Brits, right? That obviously were running it, and they were just basically, you know, governing for themselves, pretty much making themselves rich, you know, and had them in chains, and they were very bitter about that. So yeah, you know, they voted for Robert Mugabe's, you know, Marxism pretty much, and Zimbabwe went from obviously, you know, being the breadbasket of Southern Africa to obviously the famine that they've been having.
Like Mugabe would have he's like all those other leaders that loved Marx's
well, Marxist, communist, you know, to me it's, you know,
it just sounds like
extremely
an
authoritarian left. Yeah, but it basically impoverished Zimbabwe.
Yeah, because Marxism, well, to the small bit that I learned, that I read, and then it just didn't interest me. So, but the main idea was that the working class were going to rise up and do it. And like he had this vision, not a vision, he thought that was going to happen. So to be a Marxist, you have to believe that the working class are going to be, that's going to, you know, they're going to just take over. And I don't know how you could have a system where there's no leadership but you know, apparently.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't really see the difference between the two. I just see that Marxism is pretty much communism with better PR.
Yeah. You're right from that point of view. Yeah, it is.
Because it's just one small part of a philosophical conversation, but because I don't know if it's because they didn't study philosophy, and I seem to have missed out on the, you know, the historical education system. But there's no, you get Karl Marx, and then you just go straight to gender studies or branch off into and then these other people who do critical race theory and stuff.
Yeah,
and that's the end of your education. But there's all this interesting, which, you know, Jordan Peterson, I don't believe everything he says, but I think he's wonderful because he's getting people to read real shit again, like, you know, real, you know, people that were geniuses, and, you know, the real knowledge, like feminism. The beginning of feminism was Simone de Beauvoir, who's a philosopher. She's not one of these, you know, she just has this simple set of boring solutions. She's like, her books are just philosophy where you just read it and you go, oh, I understand the historical, psychological and biological origins of women and men, and well, not society so much, like humanity. Yeah.
Yeah,
From
well,
all-
I mean,
no,
Argentina though, that's been they've been fucked for a long time. Sorry to say it like that, but yeah, because I looked up anti-communist regimes, and I learned that even though what's it called? My theory does make sense. But obviously, just because regimes, anti-communists, killed communists, didn't necessarily mean that they worked. Like
wouldn't America
obviously,
be like at the top of that?
obviously,
You're talking historically before America.
obviously, in Chile, of course, Pinochet made it work, but he was a patriot, and the guy that ran Argentina wasn't.
Yeah.
And that was obviously why that, of course, failed, because he took the money for himself. He wasn't doing it to obviously, able Argentina to fulfill its potential.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy, isn't it? Like what? But it's not crazy. There's why wouldn't the sociopath get to the top? Because they're the most driven, by madness to
Yeah.
get to that power position and
it becomes
because I mean it's
no emotion. Yeah.
I mean, to me, it was such a head fuck, when I obviously first heard about it, that this, anti-communist Argentinian regime, when they'd said how bad the unemployment numbers were, and like my brain just couldn't compute that, because of course it
Under
thinks
communism.
that's under anti-communism, because my brain was thinking, that the whole point
before Pinochet.
The whole point of killing off these commies is, because they are stopping your country and its people from obviously, living happy, successful lives.
Yeah.
So to me, my brain was just like error when it was hearing, how badly they'd been, their unemployment figures had been.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
But
Cuba.
yeah, that was the explanation. Was that obviously that this guy running Argentina, of course, was nothing like Pinochet, because Pinochet was a patriot and he wasn't.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So that's why he succeeded.
Yeah. That's why Pinochet succeeded, because he, believed that he was saving Chile, whereas the Argentinian guy was just doing it for himself.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, but it's strange that we don't know the difference between.
Yeah, because I looked at it because of obviously, Anzac Day.
Are you're heading off, Mark?
Yeah, I've got to head off. I got work tomorrow morning.
I feel like I know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that we've got. I think there's just always more to talk about, and that.
Oh yeah.
I need to.
Well, it's a hectic time right now, isn't it? Another lockdown.
Yeah. Look. Life is very funny, and look, it's been a while since we've had a good chat like this and that, and I've enjoyed tonight, and
I feel like we went around in these circles, but that's what the truth is that everything links, and that you can't fully get to any solution. Well, I mean, if we had a solution, the world would be, it'd be world peace or whatnot.
Exactly, yeah. So
this is all it's about, isn't it? And I hope that one day, more people come on. But I'm happy to have.
Well, I think Marky's solution is the easiest to obtain, which is,
you've got a solution. Yeah.
Well, obviously, my solution, guys, but Marky's is more obtainable, which is basically to pretty much, vote against, to vote down, obviously, these ideological threats.
Yeah. But on saying that, it'll my opinion is one opinion, and again, I don't have all the answers, and I think that is the very conundrum of what these people have to deal with is. They think they have the ideas and the solutions, and they've got everyone else against them, and then that becomes a bit of an ego thing, especially with the more intelligent people on the planet. For example, Mr. Bill Gates, with his ideas around, dimming the sun and for climate change and shit like that, and the very thing they're pushing is solar energy. So, again, you don't have to be smart to be dumb, It
Well,
comes
you
down.
just have to be curious.
Yeah, you have to be curious, and unfortunately, with that, it goes with the old saying: "Curiosity kills the cat." And
and sometimes you find out obviously disturbing truths that you wish you didn't.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. And unfortunately, the reality, if every person knew 100% what reality was, we would be a very much worse society,
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously there's a lot of diversity of thought in the world, which isn't necessarily always a good thing, of course, because sometimes obviously we can be so diverse that obviously we have people that have, morally reprehensive, obviously, views pretty much, and obviously, of course, behave.
But it just is, isn't it? It's that this is my new religion. It's like I've tried to control things, and now for me to lose my social fears, I have to just accept things as they are. So like, you were just saying.
I mean, obviously, if everyone was the same, it would be boring.
Isn't a good thing, but diversity of ideas is who we are. So we have to. Yeah.
And that definitely is nourishment.
It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing, but it's.
Well, it's not all good, but I think it's mostly good.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly good. Yeah, good way. That's.
You guys would agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. And unfortunately, no matter what we say, and it goes across all the subjects we talk about. Like we've had multiple subjects tonight.
We used to call. Yeah. Sorry.
There's always going to be someone challenging that, and again, it's the way you deal with it, the way you approach it, the way you handle the situation that kind of makes you go, well, what am I really going to be in control? What have I got to be in control of? And if you can work that out,
well, it's only yourself, really.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of all my 12-step sayings, and one of them's analysis paralysis.
Exactly.
Where I like to analyze things.
I mean, like for all those people, what's it called? Gays, bis, lesbian, blacks, so on and so forth. The best way, to deal with obviously their bigoted haters is, their success, their haters' humiliation.
Yeah, because like the trans thing, if you use the words that make them look bad, then you're erasing them. So they think that your words are controlling, their existence when they're just words that we're saying. How can they affect this group of people so much? I mean, I guess it is about language. Like they want to be called the gender that they are, and it's literally their sex. And to me, it's like, no, that doesn't make sense. So I'm not gonna. If you make me say that, you've forced me into a non-reality where I'm controlled by, I don't know. People
someone else's
violent.
Someone else's point of view, and for example,
it's not our fault that they're getting violence against them. It's a horrible thing, and there's very high suicide. But the solution isn't for the rest of us to change our language.
Well, I mean, bigots exist just like Marxists and communists exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
because they're close-minded.
Like, for example, my girlfriend's brother, he's currently going through university and
Oh,
that
yeah.
kind of thing. And they've been told that, they're going to ask permission before speaking to one another, or the teacher,
Ridiculous.
or to pronounce their pronouns and
Yeah.
all that shit. And like, these are kids that intellectually struggle,
Yeah.
and
They'll drop out probably.
well, it just confuses them,
Yeah.
and then you create these, again, people in society that are confused just in these topics. Imagine how they feel about actual adult, life. For example, buying a house,
Mm.
paying bills.
Yeah, it should be
You know,
skills based.
again, that gets all pushed aside, and indoctrination happens, and then you have them getting together and having kids, and then it just creates this whole big conundrum of issues, that
Yeah.
will never ever actually be truly solved, because, again, as this reptilian programming of our instincts, we've got to always try and solve an issue.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I
It
mean, the
comes
issue
back
they're
to,
trying to solve is, they are obsessed with having equal outcomes across the board to the point it goes into interspecies.
well, that's it. And again,
Mhm.
when
But is it a
you,
good experiment, do you think? Do you think like we have to go through this painful time? I kind of find it exciting because it's
yeah, a
so
little
weird.
bit.
I like weird shit. And it's just
For me,
so weird.
it's very a drastic change in the last particular couple years. But again, everyone should be free to express themselves, and this is given those people that would normally be socially shunned and
Yeah.
socially, or ostracized, to the point where they might actually kill someone or whatever.
Mm.
And
Or
this
themselves.
is,
I mean,
or
like the
themselves,
suicide rate is so high, apparently.
yeah. And so you end up with these people that are, socially better off than they've probably ever been in their life, but on that, because they have all that, they get all the negative, which is the hate comments and all that shit.
Yeah.
And, and that, again, because they don't know how to handle that part of it, they just shut down, and, again, as you said, they commit suicide and or harm others, and you create.
I mean, I kind of did feel
and,
suicide when I read the line, obviously with the UN's objectives about microchipping us.
Well, again, that's a controlling factor,
Like you felt really disturbed by that.
Yeah, that I don't want to be around for that.
Yeah, well, see that is a they want that, because, again, if you create fear, that's going to drive people to do. If you push them,
help them get their depopulation.
All the Christian groups I've grown up with, to them it's like that's what they're waiting for. That's Armageddon, especially being microchipped. That's like a big
and a lot of them, the market,
it seems really creepy. Yeah,
it comes down to this self-nihilistic attitude that, we're going to save ourselves by killing ourselves, and that's been out throughout history.
Yeah.
The
give up your life for the
like the Crusades were a perfect example. People literally throwing themselves to religion, and if you didn't convert, you died. And again,
maybe the way that the Muslims think as well. They think if they
convert
die
by the sword, die by the sword.
Yeah. And again, that's a lot a belief system that gives them some form of comfort in, and disillusion from realism. It's a mask. It's a mask from pain, suffering. the stuff that we don't as people want to deal with but have to. So, it's a cover, and that's how religion's always worked. I grew up in an atheist house, and that's how I've always kind of seen it. Is religion is a tool for either control or conquering.
The thing that I would love to be wrong about most is that when you die, you decompose in the ground.
Oh, 100%. But
yeah,
again, we as this is a topic that we don't really ever truly understand. And probably will never ever understand
until it happens. Yeah.
Well, no, even after that, because you're not coming back from death. Death is one sure.
Oh well, I just mean that what's it called? If obviously, like I said, I'd love to be wrong about that. And for us to live it up in heaven. Obviously, if that happens, if we're living up in heaven, then obviously we'll know then. What the
heaven
truth will be, but not if we decompose in the ground.
Heaven doesn't seem as realistic as reincarnation or something.
That's probably the most. That's probably what's it called? That's probably the more realistic, better outcome than obviously decomposing in the ground.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Well, I think you live on in your future generations. That's
history. That's where people live on.
And like we said at the beginning, that we're a product of our parents. So I mean, even if you don't have children yourselves,
right,
you'll probably be driven to other things that put your mark out in the world.
And that comes down to our humanity's ego. We've got to be always leaving our mark on this planet.
What's it called? Our legacy.
Yeah, it is. It's the human race's legacy, Throughout history, there's been conflict, and, we're still talking about those conflicts to this day. Whether they're good or bad, and generally they're all bad.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, because they were obviously, physical.
Those events in history, and I'm sure coronavirus will be very much the same situation, like 9/11, any major event that in the last 100 years.
Will be looked back on, yeah.
It'll be looked on, well looked on, and, people...
I imagine all these videos that we chuck on YouTube.
Exactly. Look at our conversation now.
Yeah.
But 100 years ago, later... people will be going, maybe we were right, maybe we were wrong. We are not going to know, because at the end of the day, we're not going to be around. So, again, it's like the whole concept of marriage. Marriage is a concept of being together with a partner.
With your soulmate, obviously,
with your
preferably.
Soulmate, because, again, you don't have a lot of time. You don't live a very long life, so marriage is a concept of sealing that, unifying that thing of being together. That's our symbol. And again it's been warped from the perspective, it's not mainly, it's mainly a day for women, not so much men.
The wedding.
Yeah. So, again, it's been bastardized by media and all that kind of thing. So, unfortunately, we have... I'd hate to see what future generations are going to think about this time. They're probably going to be laughing at it. Like
I hope that...
I reckon it's a wonderful time. It's just, from growing up through the 80s and 90s, and just looking at how girls were there's a lot of objectification going on and whatnot, but it was nothing like the 80s and 90s where you felt owned by your male partner. And I don't know if that happens today.
No, but on saying that,
if you're owned, you kind of want to be owned, or you're a bit messed up. I don't know how to be an independent person, but...
Yeah. There was this Indian philosopher I was listening to a couple months ago, and he put it this way, if you give a woman a house, she'll turn it into a home. If you give us, sperm, she'll give you a kid. So again, women have always had more power than men. But again, men have had power from the point of view they were the protectors. They were the ones that made sure that women, and yet women bought this whole thing that if you gave them something, they would give something in return tenfold. And I think a lot of that belief system has been translated, and again, this perspective that women have to be successful before having kids and that kind of thing, is such a new concept that, it's very unusual for, particularly your generation, where
we're seeing women everywhere in public. That must be the biggest thing that's changed these days. Like even, football, in those few short years, we've got the women's league or whatnot, and then women, they whinge and moan, but there's so many women in, politics and
exactly
in jobs.
women, and you guarantee,
there's not enough women. Yeah. They choose to be nurses because they're good at it. It's such a hard job. They probably should get paid more, whatnot. But
and that's what you should do. You should do what you're good at.
Yeah.
But I can't do it. But I'm still a typical woman. In other
no, I just mean that that is like overall, like on the large scale, that's what we should be doing, whatever it is that we're good at.
Yeah. Well, I think we're in a transition. So like women have all this power, but we're not taking it. We're just still whinging about fucking men, this coercive control. I shouldn't, we're starting now new topics.
Well, again, it's that
it's an interesting idea that legalize
man haters and the ones that really have suffered, and they finally have some control and that kind of thing. And then it's almost like it's the whole school bully argument, fucking, I've got more power, I'm bigger than you, I'm better than you, so I've got to shove it in your face, and it comes down to this,
and everyone else cowers instead of stands up to them.
And so again, there's nothing wrong with that, because that's just part of society. That's, again, people asserting their dominance, which is nothing wrong with that. But I'm saying that,
they're kind of deceitful about it.
Yeah, they're very deceitful, and again.
But you're talking about like women who, it's like they're getting back at men instead of trying to work out the solutions. They're just being
spiteful.
Yeah,
spiteful, and again, that's I guess it's a byproduct of again the transitioning phase of power structure, particularly from the 50s to now. There's been a massive shift in employment and that kind of thing, and general life.
But then we're still naive. Young girls are naive, so they're going to get probably more raped in that.
It comes down to what they're being taught, what they're seeing. They're taught
like, this guy loves me,
it doesn't happen, on the college campuses anywhere near as much as they make out. It's more like 1 in 50, not 1 in 5.
Yeah, but I'm saying
really?
That.
1 in 5 is like the Congo.
It could be 1 in 5, but like every young person gets shit-faced, and
that's not really rape if obviously both parties are smashed.
But again,
and it's not even about sex, is it? It's about like sexual harassment. Is that?
Yeah, it's the dominance thing. It's the
harassment. It's like, he touched me on the ass or something, and that's the 1 in 5. Or he said a sexual comment. That's the 1 in 5 that.
Yeah, and I'm saying like actual genuine rape would be more like 1 in 50.
Yeah.
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 Probably less.
Again, these.
But then you got date rape, where I don't know the answer to who's it. like there is fault that
I mean, I got it from
guys taking advantage
I
of.
got it from PragerU that it's more like 1 in 50, and I also heard Maya Yiannopoulos say that as well.
Yeah. But
But
yeah, the difference between like because men are still physically stronger, so and it just seems to be the ones that have the confidence are the ones that chase the girls, and then like they're doing multiple assaults, and then for some reason the girls blame themselves or that they don't say anything, and so there's
it comes down to what
then
they've
you've got
been
the
taught.
legal system which don't know how to handle a victims.
Well,
And you
Just
need to
got
be able
your
to prove it,
old-fashioned-
obviously, as well.
yeah,
your old-fashioned ideas about
yeah,
well, girls are allowed to get drunk, but they're not educated about being, you shouldn't just get drunk and go off with someone. It is their fault. They are raping you, but you still could easily avoid these situations.
exactly. And that comes back to my point before with
But you can't change. I don't know. Yeah, it's hard because it's like we're trying to socially engineer, and that'll probably work.
Well, I mean, I think that really all that we really should be able to do basically is just advise, recommend.
Well, what's this new laws are coming out where affirmative consent.
Yeah,
where you can get charged with
the
rape.
consent forms.
Yeah, you got to have a consent form. Which
This new law that I saw was like if the and they won't be calling it an assault. It'll be if you had sex with someone and you didn't hear the word yes, I want to, affirmative consent. And now they're going to bring in coercive control laws. So imagine what the courts are going to look like, where it's like, oh, I didn't agree to this sex. You can't really call that rape in the end because but then they're going to try and teach it to children where the boys are going to be told if you don't ask whether they want to and they say yes, then you're raping them. So it's a whole different, it's not just the way we always lived where, the boys were the ones that ask you on the date and they're the ones that make the first move. It's going to, I don't know what it's going to look like because
did we talk about this, Mark?
I think so, but I can't exactly.
You should get off. Yeah, should. I don't know.
Before you guys go, do that political compass test for me. I'm really interested in seeing where you guys are on it.
What's it called? I'll post it on our.
Hang on a sec.
On our group.
So Troy will send it through.
Yeah, just send it through I think you did send it through.
Yeah, actually.
Alex Mishharsky's political compass test.
Okay.
So I'd be really interested in obviously seeing how close you guys are to the center because I reckon we're all pretty close.
Yeah. But I'm saying that, you don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna leave, guys. All right.
I'll end the recording.
Well, it's been a pretty good 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it's been a good 2.5 hours. I'm sure I'll talk to you during the week, Troy.
Yeah, thanks for that, mate.
And I can feel enthusiastic about a midweek one, but maybe midweek next week.
Yeah, I would be happy to do that.
Kate and Misty.
Yeah.
They're parts.
Well, they could do theirs. The girls can do theirs Wednesday or something. Yeah,
I always liked those that you have like just like a girls group and then or just a one-on-one. They seem to fit in and then you can just kind of respond in the. But I do, I like the group. I mean, that seems to be my ultimate goal is to have a group of people with all different views, and we definitely got different. They're coming out our different views. That's good.
Yeah, like I think we have a very what's it called? Like similar, but also also a bit different.
I think just being men and women just naturally makes you opposing because I just think we're so ignorant of the other side. Like,
we only know our own perspective.
I'm such a passive aggressive wife and partner that now I'm just amazed at how little I have even asked men about their life. And with Perry, I think Perry is interested. We've
Yeah,
both,
he hasn't been on these Zoom meetings for ages. Like,
yeah.
the last time I talked to him was 4 months ago.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah.
two did one. Yeah, that was good.
That
So,
was
yeah, I think-
when I obviously was seeing it, that we were obviously disparaging, cultural Marxist feminism, as you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I think that yeah, he'll rejoin us. Because no one's really watching him, and I don't mind that. I mean, who wants a lot of opinionated people yelling at?
Oh no, and I guess
kind of wanted it, but who cares?
No, I think you can make your point without being mean.
Yeah.
One day it will just kind of, people will just be so bored with themselves that they'll engage in a
Well, you never know. Again,
new idea instead of their own echo chamber.
I guess it comes down to, with these kind of things, you look at YouTube creators and stuff like that. 10 years, some of them have, and they're only just getting noticed now. You know, so it's one of those things.
Okay.
People will find it if they want it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, Amazing
Yeah, I think
Atheist, he's been around, I think, since Marky and I were at school.
Yeah, it's brought my ego down to where I'm more realistic about how, people are paranoid beyond belief about doing this, but it's such a simple, you're just talking, and your opinion, no one's going to kill you for having an opinion, and that's what people are going to socially destroy you. It's just not,
I know for a fact
cancel
that,
culture, but we're not.
Cancel culture is a big thing, and that's why particularly I don't show my face on camera. Because it's more, I look at it as, if no one can particularly target me,
I know, I keep forgetting that.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things, who knows? Sooner or later, it might be time to step into the light and show off, who I am and kind of thing. And it's one of those things. I think as time goes and more people start questioning,
the more it doesn't
people...
make it less either. That at least it's your voice in real time and not just. What's different is that you're not. We plan our responses in comments, and then, and even on our, even in the the messaging system, it's weird how I'll write a message and then I'll edit it, and I this is a very pleasurable experience of just speaking, and I never rewatch. You don't have to rewatch yourself. I just like putting it on the Facebook page for others. For whatever reason, they don't even, just to even see it there, just for people to see that, there's been a conversation, another one.
Well, it comes down to, we want as many people to come in and have the same, interests that we have. It's not. It's
curiosity, like you said.
Curiosity. It's not so much we want to hate each other or anything like that. It's just more we're trying to get to, I guess, a better understanding of life. From hearing from different point of views.
That's exactly what it is.
And solutions,
And I think that was what universities and particularly science was founded on. Discussion, not so much. This is what we got. This is how it is. And
here's the answer.
Actually discussing it and trying to find a solution. It might not be the most perfect solution, but it's still a workable solution. And I think a lot of politicians, scientists, that kind of thing, have lost that credibility.
Yeah, because we should be open to as many as possible.
Exactly. My opinion is no different compared to yours, Troy, or yours, Maureen,
No more important.
No more important, no less important, Again, everyone who wishes to speak should have some form of voice, and that's why I like the whole idea of this inclusion stuff. But on saying that, it's when they try and force you to change the way you are, that for example, I know Troy and myself, I don't particularly like because this my opinion is my opinion, and you don't have any right. That's why, for example, I going back to the vaccine quickly thing. Every person that I've spoken to, I've said, "Are you sure?" And they said, for various reasons, it's not my place to judge that. But all I can say is, "Oh, are you sure? You wear it's still on trial, that kind of thing."
Yeah.
But end of the day, I'm not going to argue with them because end of the day, that's their life,
Yeah. Arguing is.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
and I think
anyway,
that's why RDA's been so successful, because they've,
Troy.
their campaign has been, you can say no.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll wrap it up. All right.
Yeah. And if not next Sunday, then maybe during the week next. I think maybe not this week.
Yeah, we'll try and make it a bit more regular because
yeah, definitely more regular than
I know
before.
I've had some stupid personal, and the solution is to do this actually, but I've chosen to isolate and not engage with people. So it's about.
Well, again, that's your personal journey on becoming a better person, for yourself, Again,
so making this regular is actually the solution, because I can't control these other things. I actually have to spend a few years, I think, becoming an independent person, because I'm such a kind of codependent. And this practice is actually what makes it all happen. You're just speaking your own, not your own truth. I don't like that term, speaking my, but it
your
is.
perspective.
Yeah, because I don't think I know the truth. Yeah.
No,
and I still need other people, and I have always thought for myself, but I seem to rely on people to live with.
I think I know some truths, but I certainly don't know the whole truth. Yeah.
I know what you're saying. And speaking your truth, it means something.
Yeah.
But
well, what you believe to be the truth, basically.
Yeah. Anyway,
okay. We'll talk more another time. Thanks, guys.
No, thank you. And,
really enjoyed the 2 and 3 hour. Yeah, what's it called? 2 3/4 of an hour conversation.
Yeah,
I think obviously we got a good dynamic, like we were saying, with diversity of thought, obviously with you, Marky, being a centrist, and Maureen being, like a libertarian lefty, and me like a libertarian, almost each way bet between that and authoritarian righty. I think we've got obviously a good, diversity of opinion going.
Anyway, have a good night, guys, and I'll speak to you guys soon.
Okay.
You too, guys.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye. Bye.
I've got it.
Do that.